Oh, we better start hitting ourselves.
Oh, this,
Right.
okay, I don't know.
That I can sit down.
Yeah. Which is higher up here. Hello.
People hiding in the corner. I don't like.
Okay. It's okay?
It's fine. Yes, great. Thank you.
So, just a couple of words, not related to today's presentation, but because everybody is here. I just attended this week a presentation that we're going to have online on a Friday, January 15th, I think. No, Thursday, the day before. Anyway, you'll see on the Facebook group the exact day and time, but it's going to be on Zoom. And the presentation is about the kind of results of the Waskill settlement. So this is interesting, to anyone who has children on the HUB waiver, who might have children on the HUB waiver, who have children receiving services through CMH anyway, because this literally is creating sort of a change in how we can look at benefits in the future. I was sitting in that presentation with a few people that are very involved in the, I guess, disability space, and it was mind-boggling to see the reactions of people that are kind of close to the plate in a sense with services. It's I always like to say that knowledge is power, but when it comes to how we can better advocate for our children and other people with disabilities in the community, I think that presentation is pretty much a must. So if you don't mind, when you see the post, usually when I post something, if people don't like or share, it kind of disappears very fast. And having Nick Gable, the attorney that has been dealing with this litigation for 15 years, make the time to present specifically for our group is valuable. So I hope that if you all kind of share and like, etc., it gets a little bit more traction and we can have more people joining in for that. And it opens so many options, that settlement, and if people don't really take advantage of those benefits because nobody knows that they're there, it would just be a shame and a waste. And if everybody uses them and it has a ripple effect on all the other services, that would be amazing and would really kind of make the victory a victory. So that was my kind of 2 cents about the next guest speaker. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming, and I think we all have a lot to learn from you, so I'll let you start, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for the invite. I'm very happy to be here. One of my goals this next year is to really reach out to our community groups, especially those that deal with vulnerable populations. We this last year have tried to participate in a lot of community events so that we can make those contacts with other sectors of our community in order to get information to everybody about emergency preparedness. We've obviously have had some water issues the last few years that have caused some really large impacts to our community, but we have other hazards in our community that also would impact families and different things. And it's very important that you're aware of them so that you can plan for them. And then if we have those or experience those, you are better prepared to deal with them, and you have a plan on how you're going to deal with them, and then that will make you more confident during that time, and then also less stressed, and then have maybe plan B, plan C, and then it will be easier. Also, my responsibility is having a large community plan across the county, and I bring together services, but however, we really don't have the capacity to help everyone individually. So it's important that families are prepared themselves, because we just don't have the capacity or the capability to take care of everyone, especially when we get into those families that have those children or family members that have additional needs, whether they're medical needs and those types of things, because those pull on really specialty resources that we don't necessarily have. I mean, we do have some nurses and stuff at the health department and stuff, but when you start bringing together large populations of the community into shelters and different things, it becomes hard to manage some of those things. And usually if we have something going on in the community like that, the hospitals and all those other places are also overwhelmed with people needing help and services because they're maybe outside their normal place and that kind of stuff. So the better that you guys are prepared and that kind of thing, that it makes it a little bit easier on us, or even have some good expectations or realistic expectations of what we can provide and how we're going to provide that. We are working on a community sheltering plan right now. We know that we had those issues in 17 and then 2020 as well. The pandemic didn't help in the 2020 event with sheltering, but we're bringing together community resources to try to have some very good sheltering resources, and we are trying to plan to accommodate for those folks that are vulnerable and need some of those special things. But that takes a lot of coordination and that kind of thing. So I did bring some handouts for you. I'm going to cover most of the stuff today. So I don't know if you want the handouts now or later. Anybody have I know you guys are.
I like that.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
You can make.
Does anyone need the pen?
We're together, so I'll just be one. Thank you.
Can I have them?
Yes, I can.
Just a second. I usually do like a PowerPoint presentation, so I actually have a copy of the presentation that's in your packet. If you want to kind of make notes.
Thank you.
It's really just more of a high level general awareness, and then we have more specific comments and those types of things. And then some of the information I brought has very specific information about people with disabilities and that kind of stuff. So you'll have some of those details as well. Everybody has these, and I can leave copies with Iris too as well.
Please, thank you.
So in the packet is the very first thing is a magnet that has our tell more number on it. So at any time you can call this number and it goes right to 911 and you'll receive a recorded message of currently what's going on. So if there's nothing going on, you'll hear a message that, hey, there's no issues, there's no emergencies or anything like that. If you have an emergency, please call 911. But if there's something going on, like we're doing evacuations or we have a flood event and those types of things, there'll be a recording that tells you the basic information that you need, and then also where to get more information. So this is handy to have. MGTV also displays a lot of our information during emergencies. So when we've had past events, they get our information, and then when we put out warnings and different things like that, they also broadcast those on the TV. And then we also have what's called a community emergency notification application. It's called Nixle. And you can find that on Midland County 911. And there's a flyer here in your packet with a QR code that's specific to Nixle. So you can scan this and it actually will take you to what's called Everbridge. They own Nixle, and you can sign up for Nixle. And this is basically a alert. You can sign up for text messaging and emails. And so whenever dispatch sends out a message, you will receive an alert on your cell phone, a text message, and you can also get it as an email as well. A lot of things they do is like road closures and that kind of stuff, but we heavily used this when we did evacuations during the 2020 dam failure to tell people where to evacuate at. We do have the ability to do those emergency alerts where they come through on your cell phones, like through the government and through FEMA. However, we're very restricted how we can use those. So we can use those for the initial alert that a dam failure has happened, or you get them through the National Weather Service if there's a tornado warning, those types of things. But Nixle helps us provide very specific community information to people. And even if it's nothing more than saying, hey, this is going on, this is where you get more information. So those are those two pieces. There's a little brochure that our office put together about evacuation checklist. We'll be talking a little bit more about that today. So if there's an event where you have to leave your home because you're being evacuated because of a hazard or those types of things, there's some great information in there. There's also a FEMA brochure, very specifically, it's got general information on preparedness, but it has some very good specific information for those that have disabilities or have additional needs. Most of our population is vulnerable in some way or another. They consider pregnant women a vulnerable population because they're a little bit different than, an average person. So this is, most of our population is vulnerable in some way, whether they need medication or those types of things. So this covers those types of things. I'll be talking a lot more about these details, but this will be handy for you to take with you and maybe just review and help refresh you later. And then this booklet here is just kind of a general guide to emergency preparedness. Some of this information is like a little bit of duplication, but it will also be something for you to take home and kind of be a reminder of the things I talk about today, and walk you through how to, prepare your family for emergencies. I'm going to talk more about our specific community things today, but this is more the general preparedness type of thing that we have. And then this is basically a PowerPoint that I normally give. I gave this presentation to the clients of ARC of Midland. So I printed it off for you today, and this is what I'm going to use as a guide to talk today. So if you want to make notes along this, you can do that as well. So that's that information there.
So Jennifer, for those that aren't here today, you said that they could contact you, can they then get copies of these?
Yep, I can send them copies, or they can pick them up at the office. I'll leave some with Iris, so they come to another meeting or another training or something like that, she can have them for them however they want to do. So a lot of this stuff is also available on the web. You just need to kind of look for it. And given some of the changes going on with FEMA, things are kind of disappearing and appearing and moving and different things. So I'm not sure what's going to be available in the coming months to years. So I brought what we had, and we're working on making our own of these because I'm pretty sure that we will no longer be able to get printed materials from the federal government any longer with some of their cuts and things that they're making. As Iris said, my name is Jennifer Boyer. I am the emergency management coordinator for Midland County and also the city of Midland. So my job is basically to write emergency plans that cover all of our communities all the way across the county, and they basically coordinate all of the different agencies and services that we have in the community. Majority of those are like first responder agencies like police, fire, EMS, central dispatch, how we all work together so that we're all working together. That's really my big job, is to make sure that everybody comes together in a room and they're all talking together and working together, and they're not doing their own thing where we're not being efficient or we're duplicating tasks and that kind of stuff, making sure we're all on the same page. And the biggest part of that is information piece, making sure that when information goes out, it's always we have a process of how information is released so that we make sure that there's no information released that contradicts other agencies' information. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as what's going on and where our community needs to get resources and those types of things. And we have a team of people that come together to help do that. They all have normal jobs during the day. And then when we have a disaster emergency, they all kind of put those on hold and come together to help fill these roles in our community. The Emergency Operations Center, which is what I kind of manage, and try to make sure it's equipped and we have everything we need for all those people to work together. It's half of the city staff and half of county staff from various different agencies, from Road Commission and all of those, as well as Sheriff's Department and County 911. But we all basically work together as one big team to make decisions, share information, and make sure that we all kind of know what's going on, and then how best can we identify issues and solve them together, is basically the role. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of overview of what emergency management is and how it is, because it's a government agency, and how it works here locally, and then we'll talk about more about preparedness. So everything kind of usually starts from the top. So in the federal government, we have the Stafford Act, which establishes the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And they basically set standards and training and education and guidance, and they create processes and systems so as a country we can respond to large disasters together. That's the purpose of it. And then they make available the guidance, the trainings, and funding available, and they pass it down to the state currently. And then the state passes those things along to the locals. So that's kind of how it works for as far as guidance, training requirements, and establishing standards and planning requirements and that thing. However, when you have an emergency, everything is local. We have what's called Public Act 390 here in the state of Michigan, which is the State of Michigan Emergency Management Act. And it basically says that local jurisdictions are responsible for the safety and emergency response within their jurisdictions. So here in Midland County, the county is required to have an emergency management coordinator, and they're required to have an emergency management plan. And then there's some other requirements there, and that makes them eligible for emergency and disaster assistance during emergency, as well as funding. So our plan covers all 19 jurisdictions within the county. The city is a little bit larger, so they have some requirements that are different than the townships. It's all based on population. And the city has appointed the county emergency management coordinator as theirs. So our plan is a county city plan. So all through the plan, you have city and county working side by side in all the different areas, because we are really a team that kind of comes together for that. We're the only ones like that in the whole state of Michigan. Everybody else kind of structures theirs different, so it's very unique for that. It's also unique that here in Midland County, the city kind of has more resources and things than the county. Usually when you have more rural type communities, it's opposite, where the county has more and then you have a smaller jurisdiction. So we're very unique in our resources and our capabilities for those types of things. So during emergency, local jurisdictions, they have the responsibility of responding, providing emergency response to the community, life safety issues, all of that kind of thing. And then as they exhaust their resources or they get overwhelmed, they ask for help from the state. And that can be sometimes people or resources or things. The state has some emergency contingency fund if we get to that level where we need to ask for help for reimbursement of some of our expenses. And then once the state exhausts their resources, then they go to the federal government, FEMA, and ask for help. It all depends on the type of incident and if there's special needs or those types of things that are needed. There are thresholds that need to be met for that. In 2020, the threshold for the state of Michigan was $15 million in uninsured losses or response costs. And the 5 counties, mostly Midland, but also Gladwin and Iosco and Aranac and Saginaw, they met that $19 million or that $15 million threshold, which is huge because we're very small counties when you look across the state and compare ourselves to Detroit and Grand Rapids and stuff. So that was huge for us to meet that in order to get assistance for jurisdictions and municipalities. And then also we qualified for individual assistance and those types of things. So that's my responsibility of having a program, making sure we're meeting the requirements, working locally to strengthen our community, and then make sure that when we have those things, we're meeting those things so that we can advocate and get as much help for our community and residents as possible. So we have a document that's called the Midland County Hazard Mitigation Plan, and it basically outlines all the threats that we have here in Midland County. The majority of our threats is weather, right? Whether it's freezing cold temperatures, ice storms, snowstorms, or it's really hot temperatures with severe weather, thunderstorms, power that causes power outages. We've had a lot more tornado-like activity in the last few years. So severe weather like that. Also, we have flooding. If we have too much rain, we have flooding. If we have not enough rain, we can have drought, which then increases our fire chances for wildfires and stuff. We have a huge amount of state property and wooded property within the county. And even though the city is very urbanized, you still have a lot of trees, and then we have city forests. So we have different areas that, if we were to have a storm and lightning were to cause like a fire or whatever, that urban wildland interface is pretty close. So there are potential hazards for that a lot of people don't realize that we have. We also have chemical facilities in our community. So we have chances or a potential hazard for a chemical release, which can really affect the population. We haven't had any large releases since like the 90s, late 90s. However, and there's a lot of safety things that are involved with government oversight, EPA and Eagle and that kind of stuff. However, things still happen. People still make mistakes, things still break, those types of things. We work really closely with those facilities and Dow Emergency Services on those. We have our own plans specifically with them. We exercise those. So we have like kind of fake releases, and we walk through with all the partners of how we would handle those, what those impacts look for our community, and then how we would be doing our messaging for them. So it's important for you to know that we have sirens, outdoor warning sirens here in the city of Midland and some out in the townships, basically a 5-mile radius around the I park that we have, and those were put in the 90s. We're getting ready to like put in all new ones because we're looking at 25, 30 years old for those, and they're starting to break, and we can't get parts and stuff for them. We have decided, the city and the county, that we feel that that's still a good investment for us to make, even though we have all this technology available. It's not good to put I'd rather someone be warned 3 or 4 times about emergency than not receive warning at all. And it's a way for the government to actually make sure that warning happens. I can't make sure you have your cell phone all the time on. I can't make sure that you have warning alerts enabled, those types of things. So our sirens are used for 2 specific reasons here. One, for severe weather, for tornado warnings. Also, the National Weather Service has recently created a damaging wind tag. So if we have severe weather and the winds are to be excessive, 80 miles per hour, like straight line winds and those types of things, we'll be setting off our sirens just like a tornado because of the damages and life safety issues that type of wind can cause and damages that can be caused for that. And then also we set off our sirens for a hazardous material release. So in the event that we have something from one of our facilities, or even we have a lot of hazardous materials that come through on our roads and the expressway and different things. We've had tankers before spill on US 10. So obviously those causes some hazards too. So it depends on the location of those things. We did a training this last year on Bay City Road at the water plant where we simulated a tanker truck overturning an accident and releasing some hazardous materials, and kind of walk through that with the city fire department and everything. So we're training for those types of situations, but those are fast moving. On our website and also on our Facebook page, there's a Midland County Office of Emergency Management Facebook page. There's actually 2, I think like 90-second videos about sirens. One is about severe weather and one is about hazardous material, and it tells you how to properly shelter for those and what you need to do to keep your family safe. And they're very, very, basic 3-4 step videos. It's not overwhelming. We're not talking about putting up plastic and like wrapping your home in tape and plastic or anything like that. It's very simple of closing and locking your doors, going to an interior room and making sure you turn off your furnace and air conditioning so you're not bringing any fresh air out from the outside into your house. That's basically what that is. So there's different people have very different variations of what they think that is, but that's something very simple. And we also talk about if you're driving in your car in that area, that you need to like kind of turn around and leave the area, but also turning off the heating, cooling your car, closing your vents, while rolling up your windows. Those are some very easy steps to mitigate you from being exposed to anything. So those are something that very important things for you to know, so that if you were to alert that there's a hazardous material release in this area, that's what you need to do, and wait for more information. So a lot of these, go ahead.
Question about that.
Yes.
I was just wondering, just from like, I was in school back in the 80s and 90s, and there was like a hazardous materials release at the time, and I'm just wondering if you guys do anything different with the schools now as far as communication goes related to the hazardous materials. All I knew at the time was that, you know, they were like, they informed us all, I was in elementary, and they informed us all, there's a hazardous materials like release,
Okay,
everybody stay inside.
okay,
But that's kind of like all the information we got. So all the kids were crying, and
Yeah.
I was sure my rabbit was going to be dead when I got home because he lived on the porch, and stuff like that. So
Right.
I was just wondering if the communication. I mean, we were all worried about our parents
Right.
and stuff. Are they outside? Are they inside?
right.
Stuff like that. So I just was wondering how the schools communicate to
So,
people now.
so one unique part about our emergency operations plan is the schools have their own annex and they have their own representation in our emergency operations center.
Okay.
And we built that we really strengthened that relationship during the dam failure because they became our shelters, which is something we've not planned them before.
Okay.
Because they were closed. Usually schools open, so we don't usually focus on schools being shelters because their primary mission is to have kids in school, and that's everybody relies on their kids being in school and that kind of stuff. But they are part of that. Actually, this last fall when we had our the Bay City truck incident, we did have the schools in our EOC, so they're part of that. So they have a plan, and I've worked with the schools to have their emergency plans to. They have, the scenario of a hazardous material release. They also get direct messaging from dispatch as well as the emergency operations center. So if we activate the EOC or something goes out, they will receive text messages to let them know that there's something going on and where to get information, and they will get an email too. And then we have worked with creating virtual calls for our EOC. So for that type of situation, we'll most likely have a virtual center set up where everybody just gets on a Zoom call or a Teams call, and then we will give them information as soon as we have it. We relay it to everybody, and then we can answer questions and stuff as well too. So we've been working with them on that. This last time, one of their focuses was about transportation. So if we had it during like when school was released was a time frame, so they could look at their transportation plan and like what type of like what they would have in that area, and then how they would communicate, and then what their buses and stuff would be doing
That's
during
good,
that
that
situation.
last tornado.
Yep,
They
they've
had
been
because my son was on his way home
Yep,
and the tornado was, it was like severe weather. And so they diverted and went to Woodcrest Elementary to shelter in place and did not finish delivering kids.
yep,
So they
Yeah.
went there and then evacuated, or, unload
Yeah.
kids off the bus and put.
I remember some of the Boy Scouts got stuck at school in the bathroom for a while because of emergency weather too, so they
Yeah.
were notified.
So we've been really working with them as part of our whole community plan and working on those things, and they've really been part of those types of things to do. So they are part of we understand that they service a very vulnerable population of our community, the kids and that kind of stuff. And so the weather warnings that we've had during school dismissal has helped them like practice those things, because really what you do for severe weather is the same thing you do for a chemical release. You need to find shelter, get out of the area, find shelter, those types of things. So
So
Giving
right
them
now, how
time.
it's communicated is still kind of up to the schools.
Yeah,
How
so
the
we-
situation is
we communicate to the
is-
superintendents
you
or their
communicate the
designee.
information about
as far as-
to make everyone safe, but the message that they give to the kids.
Yes,
is
that's
kinda-
on them.
That's on them.
Yeah, but we're trying to
Yeah.
educate them on like what that messaging should look like and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But
Okay.
every school is different. They have different resources and those types of things. We also now have the school resource officers in the schools. Not every school building has one, but the sheriff's department and Midland Police Department is part of our team. So they then would have the information that was coming from dispatch that we knew, and we would be making sure that they got that information as well. So they would be getting information from a couple different sources, and it would be the same information. So that so everybody would be getting the information.
Yeah, and I want to make one more comment about the chemical release. That I work for DuPont and I do
Okay.
process safety. So that's what we do, is try to make sure we never have releases, right? So the two key pieces there is most people that are injured during a chemical release, it's because they're outdoors.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's because they left the building and went outdoors because they thought, I need to evacuate. The safest place for you, unless you're told otherwise, is to stay inside the building, close all your windows and doors, seal things up as well as you can, shut down your HVAC system because that's drawing in fresh air from outside, which means I'm bringing all those chemicals in and whatever's out there. So you want to shut all that down. And then the other thing that's counterintuitive for some people is if you like, oh, you see, oh, I see this release coming, or they tell me it's going in this direction and that's coming toward me. People try to turn and go away from it directly, but just like a riptide, you wanna go crosswind from it because you'll get out of it, it's, you know, spreading like this. So if you go downwind, it can go a long ways downwind, but if you go crosswind, you might get out of that
Oh,
plume going crosswind versus going away from it directly.
oh,
So if it's going north, you go east or west, you're gonna be better off.
cool, didn't
So-
know that.
Just some things to think about when you're
Yeah.
doing that.
And that's some
Or
of the
get
things that
inside
we're-
if you're in your
yeah.
vehicle as soon as possible, you know?
Yeah, so we kind of went out of order a little bit here, but so there's really two things. So the sirens are for you to, one, go inside and seek information. So our campaign that we did last year was listen, act, inform. So listen for the warning of the siren, take action, go inside and seek shelter, and then get information. So those are what those videos are kind of about and where you can get information from. We prefer you get information from us. But you know, media will be covering things, but they're relying on us. Sometimes they don't always take all the words that we say when they share information. So our Facebook page is where we share everything. So even though we have city and county and multiple agencies within our EOC, all the information goes out on our letterhead and our Facebook page. So it's that one solid messaging that goes out. So, and we even work with Dow and DuPont and, you know, the other facilities to talk about, you know, we have a responsibility to community, so we are going to be doing the community messaging. You can do what you want for your employees and what you need to do and stuff, but when it comes to community, we have to be the messaging. So if we want to delay like people returning their homes, you might be great there at the site, but maybe we still have some concerns or we want to delay that. That's going to be our decision, and we're going to be given the all clear for the community. So so yeah, so we have a lot of all these relationships built, the processes built and stuff in there. But again, there's two actions. You're either going to shelter in place. When you hear the sirens, the one action is shelter in place and get information. The other action would be to evacuate. So that's more like a flooding type of situation, would be evacuating. Or if you have a house fire, evacuating, you know, you have something going on at the place that you're at, and that's why you need to leave it. So those are basically the two things. So those are the two things that you need to plan for, regardless of what the hazard is. You need to plan for either means sheltering your home for a period of time or evacuating your home for a period of time. In those hazards I discussed, weather or hazardous materials or pandemic, and we're all familiar with pandemic now. Those types of things, those are the things that are going to cause what those impacts are to you as your family. So it's just planning for them. And getting information is really the most important piece of how to get information. So we kind of talked about the alerts that you get on your phone. Some of those automatically come from the Weather Service, but we also have ability to do that as well. And some of those alerts you don't have to sign up for. We just override the system, but we're very limited on what we can do. Then we have Nixle. And then we also share information like on Facebook and stuff. So usually if we send something out, like a weather or not a weather, but a hazardous material release or a flooding, whatever, we're going to be following up with information on social media right away on that to give you more information. So weather alerts, not so much. People should know what to do with an attorney warning unless we get reports of damages and those types of things. We'll be sharing information. So there's warning and there's information. Warning is like the sirens, the alert on your phone to make you aware that you have something going on. And then information is the stuff that follows that gives you more specific details on that. Sure.
Sorry. So I just looked it up, and our house is like 5.1 miles from here, like
Okay.
out in 20. And you said the sirens are like a 5-mile radius or something?
Yep.
I'm just wondering, like you said, you were looking into like new sirens, kind of updating them or whatever. And I don't know how the weather usually, if this is how the weather usually travels, but I definitely remember being like outdoors with my horses in the arena, and it was like, oh, the winds and everything, the weather is really bad. Ooh, it's a little scary. And then like a few minutes later, like after it passed, the siren went off, like kind of for. So I'm just curious about if it's because we're out on that 5-mile outer edge that like the weather passed us first.
So the sirens were originally put up because of the chemical facilities. That was the original thing for it. We don't really, historically, we don't have a lot of severe weather. We've had 10 tornadoes in over 60, 70 years in
Mhm.
Midland, which is really small compared to like Genesee County, who's had like 64 tornadoes in that same amount of period. Yeah, or Oklahoma and stuff. But obviously our weather's changing, becoming more severe, whether that's in the winter or in the summer and stuff. So the locations of those were basically done based on that chemical threat, right? And then when you start getting out further into more rural areas, you have less population. So so the city has the sirens because they're heavily populated, right?
Mhm.
They're getting more, they're warning more people with a siren.
Yeah.
Where when you get out to like past like Homer and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
instead of warning like 1,000 families with a siren, you're warning like 5 families with a siren. So they can become a little bit less effective in that way.
Mhm.
And it's really up to the local jurisdictions on what they want to do for sirens. So part of the hazard mitigation plan talks about those jurisdictions that have interest in putting sirens and stuff in.
Mhm. It's just interesting that I can hear the sirens.
Right.
But like I heard them after the weather passed, so I was like, the tornado will hit me and then the siren will go off.
Yeah, so there's some different things, there's different things for that. So the alerts on your phone, they come automatically from National Weather Service and they're the first thing that they do. So technology is going really fast and
Yeah,
us keeping up
it
with
is
it
better.
has been kind of difficult. So the way that we used to get information to set off our sirens, that's the last thing that National Weather Service does now. They do this first, so we've learned from that. Because they had, dispatch had procedures that this is how we confirm, right? To make sure that it's good information, that it's not like a cyber threat or whatever it is. So we've changed that. Also, our sirens, we have to have a person, a human being, push that button.
Mhm.
So if there's severe weather going on and we're getting a lot of information in, and then you have accidents and things going on in the community, that kind of spreads the people that are dispatching, because we usually have 3 or 4 people answering hundreds of calls and all of this stuff, so it gets busy. So we're with our upgraded system, we're looking at automating that. So as soon as the National Weather Service puts out, then our sirens will automatically go out.
So that was a lot faster.
Yeah, it will be faster, but it takes time because that's technology and it's
Yeah.
making sure that
But
everything's
as you upgrade,
integrated.
that'll be a prime time, because you probably have to put in new relays and things.
Yes.
To trigger it.
Yep, new software
Yeah.
and those types of things. So it's great to have automatic stuff, but then as you've heard in Hawaii,
Yeah.
like it's not always great to have automatic stuff if like something happens or you have cyber incident and stuff like that too. So
What happened in Hawaii?
So the FEMA system I talked about, it's called iPause, but it's wireless emergency alerts. Someone kind of logged in, they set off alert for like a tsunami or something, and it was fake. So it caused like a huge like scare from everybody, and like public safety, like what's going on? Because they're like, who set that off? And it was in the news for a month or two. It's been it was before their wildfires, so it's been a few years ago, but there's pros and cons with things, right? So it's making sure we have processes and security and stuff in place for those.
But that's why you also do your monthly check
Yep.
to make sure that everything's working, because
Yeah.
you could have a relay go bad or something, and then they think it's gonna go off and it's not
Right.
gonna go off. So
Yep.
you do those monthly checks to say,
Yeah.
yeah, everything is working as expected, and if not, then you can.
So the first Monday of the first Saturday of the month at 12:55, we do a siren test. The other Saturdays of the month, we do a test, but it's just kind of a growl test and rotate test. So we have a system where the siren and the controller talk back at each other. So every day I get a report on what's going on with their sirens. The problem is those are kind of getting older, and sometimes they don't talk real well. There's nothing wrong with them, but they look like they're not talking good. And then you're sending people out and they're fine, and it's kind of like chasing ghosts. So hopefully this next year we'll get a new system in and it'll be new stuff, and then we won't have issues, and we'll have a lot better technology to do those type of things. So
Yeah, I did want to say one other thing too, on the chemical release, why 5 miles was picked, is that's our worst case scenario.
Yes.
We've calculated on site,
yeah,
is that you don't expect that you could reach a toxic level that would be permanently damaging to somebody. It could irritate or do something like that, but an anhydrous release can reach up to 5 miles and be toxic.
Yeah.
So that's what that's based on.
Ooh,
It's-
5.1 miles.
Yeah.
if the wind direction's right for you.
But, you know, I mean, so we've done that calculation and, you know, that's our best estimate right now.
Right.
So it could actually go 5.5, I don't know.
Okay,
Or
they're-
4.5
well,
free.
you know, they've got certain chemicals in the event that they release every pound, every ounce of that
Exactly.
chemical, it can actually
Very
reach
eventually-
the bay.
Mhm.
But those are very, you know, the potential for those are very, very low. That's like a
Mhm.
perfect storm type of situation, whatever. But we do have that type of information, different things, but it's also variable on the type of chemical, the chemical makeup, is it heavier than air or not?
The wind
If
speed.
it's humid outside, like there's just so much in there that's variable. So our warning right now is, even though we have a specific wind, we're still doing a 360 type of area, because you can have wind change at any time, and we would rather have a lot more cushion, you know, for our community for those types of things, than to be very specific and then things change, because then when things change you have to re-communicate that, and then people get confused and then they get mad and that kind of stuff. So we kind of try to provide a little bit barrier so we have that extra layer of protection, and then we feel a lot more confident about that. So yeah, a lot of great things. So you know, we have the sirens for certain emergencies, and then you have your phones and those types of things. They're also, if you have never heard of a weather radio, there's weather radios. And if you have children with disabilities or people that need extra time to shelter or evacuate, I would encourage you to get a weather radio. I have one in my house. I think you can get them for $40 at Target or Walmart. You want one that has a NOAA on it for NOAA, because then National Weather Service, when they activate that, it automatically goes off. I have one in my house and I have it very loud, and my husband hates it. But it's basically like a fire alarm in your house, but it's for weather, or a smoke detector in your house, but it's for weather. So it goes off, and you would program it. There's like usually 5-10 steps to program it. It's very easy. I would even program it for you if you bring it to me. I have mine programmed for Midland County, Isabella County, Gratiot County, Saginaw County, because most of our stuff comes from that way, as well as Bay County, because of the direction of where our weather comes from. So I usually know what's going on an hour or so before we could possibly have it here. But for some reason, when it gets from Isabella to the Midland County line, a lot of things just stop. They just fizzle away. It's that Dow Dome, we call it. It's really interesting. But there's some things that we've had weather coming from the north and severe storms coming from the south. And we've actually had east storms come in too, depending on the time of year. So mine goes off a lot more than it needs to. But if you live, you know, out on the outskirts, like closer to Isabella, I would recommend you being aware, you know, you can program it for 1 county or 3 counties or more. So you can do that. Each county has like its own code or whatever, and I can help you find the information. But what's important about that is it gives you the warning, and then you hit the button and it broadcasts, it plays a recording. And for severe weather, like a tornado, it's going to tell you where the tornado is, what town it is, how fast it's moving, what the wind speed is, if there's hail associated, if it's a life-threatening information, how fast it's moving, and when it will be in the next town. And that's very specific information that is very valuable for people that, like, especially if you're in a mobile home or something where it's not really a safe structure for you to be in, that gives you time to get out and go south or north if it's heading, you know, that type of thing, or get to a safe place to shelter. And it's like that for winter weather as well. It'll tell you the ice accumulation, all of those extra details. That's very good for you to be informed about really what the hazard is, and for you to make decisions on what you need to do, and to give you time to do them. Yes?
Sorry, does anyone
No,
else have any questions?
no, this is good. This helps move things along.
I was just wondering, like, because the tornadoes here don't tend to be like super destructive, it's more like knocking signs down and stuff, but like if it's a house that doesn't have a basement, it's like on a slab, but you can go to like an interior hallway. Is it better to stay at the house and go to an interior hallway, or go, if there's a tornado, you know, warning, go to someone else's house that has a basement?
I think
but then you're
that's-
driving on the road.
I think that's a personal choice.
Okay.
Obviously if it's the more significant it is, like the higher the wind speeds, those types of things where it's more damaging, and they will actually use the words, this is life threatening. If you're in a mobile home, get out, seek
Yeah.
better shelter. They will say those things.
Okay.
Because they've really worked on those things, especially like in the south and stuff, when they have a lot more of those types of storms and that kind of stuff. That's why it's always good to just know how the weather is. If there's a tornado, watch out, or they're forecasting for severe weather, just know where like the local gas station is, or McDonald's or whatever, or a family member. It's really best to have a family member, where you can go to get shelter. The old gas stations.
We have a basement too, but.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The old gas stations that are made of cement brick, those are the best things
Oh,
because those provide the best coverage for you. Not the like new fancy ones that are made of like wood and drywall. You want those cement brick ones. So, but not everybody has a basement or they can get down into a basement safely. So it's having that interior room, as many walls between you and the outside, and get as low as you can. So, yes.
I have a dilemma. We have a basement, but the basement has windows all around. Like window big. What do
So, so are you able to get underneath your stairs?
you do? Not at the moment. It's like a storage area. But
yeah.
That's where we go in our basement, is we actually go underneath the stairs.
okay.
That's right. It's narrow.
Where's your mechanical room for your HVAC? It's probably in the basement. It's in a closed room.
No, it's
Right
probably
now
open.
our basement is unfinished. You've been there.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I didn't.
The door
didn't
will
pay
be
attention to
exactly
your
what
experience.
it's
You don't have any closed like HVAC
Yeah.
or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
For a gas furnace.
No.
No. it's all
So-
one big empty space and.
You want to shield yourself. If you can see outside, that's not good.
Okay.
So you'd want to be.
Stay upstairs in a.
No.
No.
You got five stairs.
I would recommend you be in the basement. So your stairs come down, you have walls on those stairs. So maybe pick a side of the wall that doesn't have window. Do you have windows all the way around or just on certain walls? The back side. Okay.
There's one direction,
Okay.
maybe that's.
So the front side doesn't have windows. So I would be on that side of your stairs. I'd clean out your closet, really. Ours isn't finished either. So, and we got like makeshift shelves. So we kind of like all try to squeeze in there with the dogs. But we're only there for 10, 15 minutes or so, right? It's not a long period of time. Or you can like even like put some boxes up and maybe create yourself like a little bit of room with like totes or storage or whatever. You can do that.
Finish the
Well, so the key is though, is like she said, is pick a wall like
Yeah.
that. And then put up a wall, because what you're trying to protect yourself from is flying glass.
Outside, yeah.
So if you put up a wall between you and, like if you're in your corner, like down here where you don't have glass all the way down, then you could just put up a wall to shield you from any flying glass.
I grew up in Israel. I have no clue
Right.
about tornadoes.
Yep. And like it doesn't, obviously tornadoes come from a different path and stuff, but you have to understand tornadoes are rotating winds. So if the winds are rotating this much at like 120 miles an hour, they're also rotating internally at 120 miles the other way. So like, unless you have a room that is designed to weather a tornado, you're gonna do the best you can with what you have, right? So as low as you can. So if you're underground, that's a win. If you can be away from windows, that's a wind. If you can put things around you or put a pillow on you or whatever, or even put a mattress up against the wall and then sit underneath the mattress like a tent or whatever, that would be good protection, right? Because if anything falls or comes at you, the mattress is going to protect you. Those types of things.
But it's still better downstairs than
Yep.
a room upstairs with no.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if it's something really big, you might not have any upstairs to come to.
Yeah, might rip the whole house off.
Yeah.
Then you'd be in the basement.
You don't usually see basements come up and go. Basements stay.
Okay.
But don't worry, Michigan has really wimpy tornadoes.
Hey, no.
Careful,
careful.
No, I still go in the basement, for sure go in the basement, absolutely, but.
1953,
And 1960.
the Beecher tornado killed more people than any other tornado in the United States until the Joplin tornado, and that was in Flint.
And they had
Was
that
it type
in
5?
Early 60s as well, that I know my stepdad.
Yeah, weather is getting
Southern
worse.
Michigan.
It's like.
And though we've only had 10 tornadoes here, we've had very strong tornadoes. They've been type 2 and type 3 tornadoes, which are very life-threatening tornadoes. but they've happened out in the country and not made really any damages.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to have a type 2 or type 3 tornado in the city of Midland, you're gonna see loss of life
Mm.
and significant damage. So
Mm.
we've been lucky,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't mean it'll never happen, just like the dam will never fail. But never say never.
Is a tornado counted only when it touches down?
Yes.
'Cause I mean,
So until then, it's like a funnel.
rotating cloud,
It's
that's
called
pretty
a funnel
common.
cloud.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the thing, is because of our Great Lakes really make it difficult for forecasting for those things. Because it's all about instability in the air, moisture, and all that kind of stuff. So usually in Michigan, when we have tornadoes, they're usually weak tornadoes and they spin up very fast and they're done. So the radar at National Weather Service takes 5 minutes for it to go all the way around from top to bottom. In 5 minutes, you can have a tornado spike up, do damage, and come back down and be done, and they will just see a glimpse of it.
Which answers your question about the 5.1 mile thing.
Yeah.
How it got by you, because
Oh,
they're
Oh, yeah.
probably watching it and they're saying, when I see weather or I hear weather's kind of I'm watching it myself,
Yeah.
because they'll be showing the cells where the red, they'll show, hey, there's,
The velocity
it's
changes.
spinning, or there's a potential here, or
Yeah.
whatever. And until it actually touches down, or it actually, is turned a
Yeah.
tornado, it could come just like that, or that storm could go past you, and then the alerts going off.
It's also important to know that we are at the very edge of the radar for all 3 National Weather Service radars in the state of Michigan.
Midland is?
Yes. So Midland is the last county. So we are part of the Detroit Pontiac Weather Service. And so Isabella is out of Grand Rapids and Gladwin is out of Gaylord, and all of their radars kind of end right there at that corner of Isabella, Midland, and Gladwin.
Mm.
So when their radars are that far away, they're higher up. So they don't see as much like towards the ground activity. So that's why they're forecasting for rain and different things like that is a little bit harder, because we're farther away, and also so it's harder to see. So usually for us, sometimes they're a little more cautious and they'll call a tornado warning based on what they're seeing, because they can't see very well. It's like they're using a CAT scan when they need an MRI, but they have limitations, right?
That's probably why living here my whole life, I don't really believe, I mean, like I still follow, like I remember going into my basement a lot as a kid, like my kids' parents were still at work or whatever, and tornado warning, we go in the basement, but like never actually had a tornado come. I mean, maybe the prediction are better now.
And historically, we don't have like the 5 mile wide or 1 mile wide tornadoes, type 5, like you see in Oklahoma, but we've had them before in the past. History is cycling, or like weather is cycling, so it's that you can't put never. It can still happen. They also like I worked in Genesee County for a few years before I came here, and then we had 3 tornadoes one night, and one came down on a road, and they happened at night, like at 10 o'clock in August, so it was already dark, so you couldn't see it, and it totally took away a house. All that was left was a basement. It actually was a walkout house, and there was a mother and 2 children in it. She had a 2-year-old and 4-year-old boy, and she got the warning. She went downstairs. So when the sheriff's department was bringing her out, she's like, I need to go upstairs and get my kids some clothes. They don't have shoes. She's like, you don't have an upstairs anymore, ma'am. But the house next to her, she had houses on either side of them. They weren't even touched. They had some debris,
Oh my
but her
gosh.
whole house was gone. So that's how narrow they can be, and they also can be wider. But everybody needs to really respond to them, plan for them as though they're in that narrow scope. And they can jump, like the tornadoes that we saw last May down in Allegan and County and that kind of stuff. They had like 8 to 10 tornadoes, and they kind of jumped, and they kind of just picked or whatever, like cherry picked different areas.
Take
And
out
you-
a tree here.
Yeah, they take a tree here or whatever, and then it'd be fine on the other side of the road. Which makes it very hard, to like have like a path and that kind of stuff. But usually by debris, you can measure it and confirm it.
So from a disability standpoint, like I have to try to find the balance between, teaching our sons what to do and make sure you follow it and go in and follow, like, especially if we weren't home or whatever, follow the warning and go in the basement. But they have, you know, they can have high anxiety.
Yep.
So, you know,
So you make it as
if there's like
comfortable.
but if there's a tornado warning or whatever, I don't want them having such extreme anxiety for hours and then it comes to nothing, basically. So it's
Right.
like, follow it, but it probably will
Right.
be okay. I don't know.
So
you know?
it's
like,
I have a daughter that's home alone, like after school and stuff, which is usually the time which we have severe weather is after school or late afternoon, those types of things. So she's had to shelter before by herself. So I would create them inviting space down there with some pillows and different things, make it fun, like, hey, you're camping out or whatever in the basement. And just say, this is what we do to stay safe. I text her, I let her know, or she's like, hey, I'm like, hey, we got certain tornadoes coming through, just let you know, we have severe weather coming. A lot of times she'll just go down just to be down there. She'll text me. I try to show her how to look at the radar, but she's really not there. She's 13 now, but I've been down there before with her and answering the phone and doing all of my stuff while I'm there with her. But really, it's like, okay, I understand that this might not happen, but in case it does happen, this is the safest place for you. I'd rather find you here and you're safe than have to look for you out on the street or somewhere else or not be able to find you because a storm's hit and our house has damage to it and I don't know if you're okay. So trying to find like ways like that to talk to them
Yeah.
and like, at an age appropriate level, like this is a safe place to do. We do this because it's the safe thing to do. Just like you drive. You do things when you drive because of the safe thing to do. Sometimes like you drive in the middle of the night, you still use your blinker, even though there's no one around to see your blinker, you still do it because it's a safe thing to do, right?
Put on your seatbelt.
Yeah, you put on your seatbelt, you do all those things. So using those analogies to explain it to them. And that's why like talking with this group, I know that there's probably all different levels of anxiety and different things. And you probably have environments that you have created in your house for your children to feel safe and that kind of stuff. So taking time to create those environments in these safer places, like downstairs or in a small interior room or whatever. So then it's less stressful for them because maybe they helped you build it. They are knowledgeable about it, right? So it's all about educating them beforehand, becoming knowledgeable about it, making it a fun thing for them. So then it's not a stressful thing because they're knowledgeable about it. They've been through, even my daughter, the more information she has, the better she is because she has some anxiety issues as well. And so if I can educate her, make her knowledgeable about it, teach her what I can at her level, then she's good. She's totally good. But if I try to do it in the moment, it doesn't work, especially because I'm usually working or doing something. Because I'm like, okay, something happens. I'm not going to be home to take care of everybody, like dad and you, your dog. You all got to figure this out. And, you got to do this without mom. So, yes.
What is the, I guess the best approach or the most widely recognized approach for first responders for them to receive or to need to know information about vulnerable individuals in the event that they get separated from their families?
So that's a really good question. So I don't know if you're aware, but you can call 911, like the office number, and they actually have in their CAD system, you can fill out a form for them and put information about vulnerable populations in your home and give that to them. So then if there's ever emergency call at your house, they have that information for responders to let them know. So that's a good way of having that.
You said you call 911 to.
Wait, no, not the
No.
911 number.
No, they have a non-emergency number.
Yeah,
Yep,
because
call the
I
office number.
first get that form and they send it to me.
Yep, every year.
annually, But I have not gotten that form and I was gonna ask
Okay.
that question. It's-
Yeah, they still do that.
There's also capsules where you put answers, you put information in.
I'm not aware of that. So we had some discussions with like the art for like their clients and stuff, and they wanted to create like a sticker to go on their house, but law enforcement really didn't want them to like do that because then they're identifying to possibly bad people that they have a vulnerable person in the house. So so as of today, I do not have an answer for you for that other than making sure 911 is aware by filling out that form. I don't know if they have a form on the website or not. I would just call the non-emergency office number and just say, hey, how do I do this? Because they have a CAD system where they can put notes in there. They do it for people that have medical issues or that type of thing. And then when there's something going on. So then in a large emergency, they could possibly look at that information and see that we have that. But as far as being separated from your child, that's kind of like on a case by case type of thing where we'd be working to gather information from you and then we'd be using it. We do have a specialized search and rescue team that we'd be deploying that's very good about how they grid the area and search and that kind of stuff. But the more information you have available, or even have like in your emergency packet, like a current picture, like update the picture every now and then, and just having some of that information where you could even hand it to them, like have something that you have like several copies of and you can hand it to them or whatever. Those are some things that would be helpful for you to have instead of you trying to gather them in the moment, if that makes sense.
They make those automatically with the school pictures and they send them home for free.
Yeah,
That have the emergency stuff and you can call and set that stuff up automatically for them. And Lily and I both have road IDs that automatically like lock where she can't get open because you have to pull it and adjust it, and you can get ones for your legs or different ways, like one you can wear around like your collar or whatever. And it has however you want to set it, if you want to have like the QR code, or if you want, we usually have like 2 names or 3 names with our phone, like birth date on there. Lily's has like 1236 autism, may run, may not understand. So if she gets lost or whatever, you get emotional, sorry, I get nervous, sorry.
You're good.
Sorry. Somebody will be able to identify and contact me or whatever, sorry. Excuse me. But that type of thing, because she's done that before, and I found her obviously like kind of a place because she goes quickly and she runs and everything, but that type of stuff, it really helps for her to have an ID on 24/7 for if anything happens. And then there's other ones that are a little bit more expensive, but they have like the GPS type things too, where you can track at all times, and it's very, very helpful. And the same thing, like when we're in a car, aside from having the ones on the seat belts,
yeah,
but if something were to happen, getting into a car accident, or if anything else, getting like knocked out or whatever, we've always got those on at all times. and it's
where do
really
you
nice.
get those?
Road ID.
Road ID,
.com.
okay,
I love them and they're not that expensive.
okay,
And they've got a variety of different ways that you can use them.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I know for Nathan, we've called and said, well, we've used the thing from the school, but we've also called and we've put in that he's nonverbal, so they can't just come in. If there's a fire, they can't call out, well, he can't call.
Yeah.
So they need
Yeah.
to know that he's there, so
Yeah.
that they know to go look for him.
Yeah.
And then you can put like where they're most likely to be.
Yeah.
So they will look there first, so it'd be like,
Like their
okay,
bedroom or
bedroom,
something.
left side as you come in, the living room. Where does he generally hang out the most?
Yeah.
He probably has an 80% chance of being in that area. So then they can go there, start there, and then branch out to do search.
Yeah.
During the fire.
Does that emergency form that you were talking about, like, so is that, that is like people from 911 can see the information and the police can see the information and fire?
Well, the
Like fire department,
911 can
like-
see it and then they can relay it to law
Okay.
enforcement or fire or whatever.
And then that, who owns all those
Yeah, I was gonna say,
agencies? Cause I also have a little bit of a concern about like
No,
privacy
so that's-
information too.
So that's specifically to the system that 911 has. So 911 would hold it. And so they would own, so they don't share it. They don't share it out
Okay.
at all. It's specifically for them and their operations and for public safety. It doesn't get shared with anybody.
They-
So the
they're
state, can the
private
state of
owned.
Michigan say, we want a list of all the people that,
No.
have this disability or something like that?
No. Because it's also, it's identifying information. And then it's also medical information. So it could also be like a HIPAA type of thing too as well. But, to
I
my
was wondering
knowledge-
if they had to follow
So-
those same rules.
So, believe it or not, our we don't share across the state data systems. 911 has their own CAD system that's separate from, like Saginaw County has their own CAD system, and Bay County has their own CAD system. So, to my knowledge, they can't even access each other's information, and the state doesn't even have like a system. The only thing the state has is a radio system, which is like, the towers and stuff, and we're part of those things. But as far as a database, it's not shared. Like I'm a foster parent, and foster agencies, like there's not like a statewide like
oversight. I
system
think, Yeah.
where you like know all of these things. It's very siloed in different things, and that's kind of how like that information is. So that is very much just for 911, and they only share it if they receive emergency call in your home and they need to pass that information along to whoever is responding to your home.
What was that?
So-
company to do that?
It's I
You
can't.
call a non-emergency office number,
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah.
Maybe we can look up. the-
So if you just go
Yeah, I
to
just found it.
Midland County 911.org, there's a couple links on there. That's where you can sign up for Nixle, and then also they have their phone number on there. You can call them and just say, hey, I have a child that has like a disability or whatever. I can give you my information, and then they know what you're talking about. I don't know exactly what the form is, but I don't know why they quit calling. They used to annually call on that. So but you could easily call them and see that they still have it.
Yeah.
Because I know the person that usually did those callings, so I don't know if or I don't know if they just checked to see that you haven't moved, because obviously
Yeah,
they could look
maybe,
up and
yeah.
see that the house hasn't been sold. There's like not another owner there for it.
Okay.
So I don't know how that process is. That's a different agency than I'm part of. But they have those
So just calling that non-emergency number.
yeah.
Talking to Nicole, would be a really good thing too. Cause I know Nicole would have answers, and if not, Nicole can tell us what we need to do, or all this different stuff, the chief of police, Nicole.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of different resources and different things to get into like the system and whatever we need to do. Cause I know different people have said to take like Lily in and introduce her to different
Oh, yeah,
people
yep.
also, just so they know who she is.
Yeah.
For all the different stuff, just in case.
And that's
she's
why they
in a
have
house.
their
Yeah.
open houses and stuff. It's where the community kind of come in, and it's not a scary thing for them. It's a community resource, and it's a safety thing for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And if you fill out this form with the non-emergency 911 office and a call comes in from that residence, do they get some kind of a flag where that information is triggered for them to be?
I believe so. That's not something that I do, but that's how I understand that it
Okay.
works, is it comes in and then it lets them know there's notes on that resident. So whether like that person, they have a history of falling and needing lift assistance or something like that, or whatever it is, they have a way in which they can notate it in their system where they can see it and let them know that, there's, the demographics of the family or whatever information you have provided to them.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
or
it's
like
maybe
even where
not.
the child's bedroom is, like in the case of fire.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's nighttime, they know they're probably
Yeah.
in bed.
It's supposed to be specific, like, I was a firefighter, I just
Yeah.
retired.
Okay.
But so police and fire was a separate, you could hear it might be the same dispatch, but when they get the information, they have all information, and they will not share information.
No.
Police related to fire because of like security, like
Yep.
we had a new system come in and we were getting police information and they changed it right away because
Yep.
of privacy. Risks.
Yep.
So they will,
Yeah.
so the dispatch person will see the notes and actually needs to get on a piece of paper, and they also tell us audibly that there is someone who's disabled in the house, or there's oxygen tanks in the house, or whatever it is, and you can add that information. That was very helpful because I always read that as an officer. I always read, make sure what I was getting into, especially for a medical call, someone falls more often, or there's numerous people in the house. If we have to go in there, there could be numerous disabled people. So yeah, I would definitely call and provide information, and they're very, very specific about telling you what needs to go to whichever person is responding to that.
Okay.
And
thank
our law enforcement channels have become more encrypted, so the public can't hear them. I'm not sure about fire, but I know that they're very
Where the scanners were.
like scanners. Like each of our departments have their own channels, so sometimes they'll move to another channel to share information, but they're very considerate about what type of information they share over the air too as well. And now people have cell phones and stuff, so like a lot of times they'll just say, "Oh,
There's a
I'll call you,"
program,
or
like a
yeah,
911 response, people can actually scan the area and hear it. So everyone can hear it sadly, but yeah, like you said, unless it's something very important, they will provide it, or otherwise, sometimes you have a very lengthy message there and it's worth reading for us, so we always read that before.
So like in the CAD, so they call it CAD, it's computer aided dispatch, but they can actually send a message to the officer or whatever, and they can bring it up on their laptop and stuff. So they'll say, hey, we're sending you information, and then
Yeah, we have
can
on a
see
piece of paper and on the computer as
Yeah.
well, so it's kind of a duplicate, so you can check.
And for Midland County, the non-emergency number for 911 is 989-839-6464.
You could also provide like information if there's some specific about your house, where it's located, how best to get in there and stuff like that, which is a little unusual. You know, that was extremely helpful. Sometimes we get an address, couldn't find a house, and it was tough between, with a driveway between two homes. There was a home in the back we didn't even know, especially in the middle of the night.
Well, and one thing that's really important is to have good address labels that are reflective that you can see at. the
Right, those
road.
are, that's code, yeah.
Yeah, those are really important.
Phone check.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So-
people only have the one way out on their house, and if they're 200
At
yards. up their house,
nighttime
then
and
at
weather,
nighttime
bad weather,
see
you
it.
can't see it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So if it,
My eyes were bad, I couldn't see it like that.
if the information is in that like 911 form that we do fill out, then the fire department can get it.
When you call on that number, and that information should pop up for them on their screen and the CAD system. And they will determine who, like, if the police have to respond, they'll give them their pertinent information or the fire
Yeah.
department.
And it's good to know though that like, actually, if it doesn't go across states, if you're traveling, do you, you know, I guess you have to decide if you're gonna be contacting. I don't know. It's just like, if you get into a car accident in
Right.
Ohio or something, those police are not gonna know that you
Right.
have someone with a
Yeah, it's
disability. in the
specific
car.
for
So,
our
Yeah.
area.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's something to keep in mind too. I know for us, and I don't know about others who have children in wheelchairs or whatnot, is when I go to a hotel, I make sure that I get a lower level floor.
Yeah.
Because you can't evacuate if you're up above. You can't use an elevator if they turn off the elevators because of a fire.
Yeah.
And you can't get them down the stairs with a wheelchair, so I always try to make sure that I'm like third floor or lower. Because then they can get, if they have to, an aerial lift up there to get to. So even for regular people, if you're, the higher you are, the more vulnerable you are. So you hear about these like major high-rise hotels, somebody, way up there, you could be in trouble. So from a safety perspective, I always try to make sure I'm in a lower level room.
I have a question. I just, Teresa is reminding me something. When I was pregnant with my second child, I was living in Calgary, Alberta, on the 18th floor of an apartment building. And 9 months pregnant, and I was in a wheelchair myself, complications. I couldn't walk, and like even if I wanted to, I couldn't. So basically, we had a fire alarm in the middle of the night. My husband ran downstairs with our daughter, who's a wheelchair user. In the middle of the winter in Calgary, Alberta, like -30, right? But I had to stay behind. What happens? Like how?
We operate in the elevator. We have keys and we
Yeah.
go and there's certain escape elevators and certain elevators that the firefighters and police will utilize for them. So we will lock down certain elevators and we have operation over there.
I wasn't sure that night who was luckier, me that I got to stay upstairs or my husband I just found downstairs.
So for like in a situation, if you're in a hotel and you're on a higher
Yeah.
floor, because I mean, we always say we're screwed if.
you need to get
Yeah,
to
but
a
like-
window so they
So
can see you.
they do have a way to get to you.
The
Yes.
first thing we do usually when we show up to a scene like that, if we know we have an active fire, we'll shut the elevators off. And
Right.
all the elevators will make it down to the lobby level. And then so we have access to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have a key, so we put it into firefighter service and we go in each elevator, you see that little box over there, has all these like keys and.
It has the
whatever.
firefighter pad on it.
Yeah,
We use that to utilize and we take over that elevator.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So they're all
Where they're
used there,
operating.
but and they could be
Yeah,
used for
that's-
escape or for a fire attack.
Okay.
But you can't just evacuate on your own because they automatically shut down the elevators. So
Until we get
that's-
there,
until
until
they-
we get there,
Yeah.
which they
Okay.
recommend not going into elevator because if you get trapped. Or
Right.
something becomes an operational,
yeah,
but
if you're on
I
a
get it,
floor,
it's
you're
not an
trapped.
easy situation.
This, what do you do? It's kind of if you do, if you don't.
yeah,
Right.
Kind of a situation, but yeah, normally you wouldn't want to because if it fails, because things fail in fires.
Right.
Right, so then
It
you can
becomes
get
smoke,
trapped in the
yeah,
elevator.
it's basically a chimney, an elevator shaft could be a chimney too, fire
Yeah.
gets in there, so it's.
Right.
You can have smoke trailing up through
Right.
there. That kind of thing, so.
so it's good to kind of have a plan. I mean, if we need to shelter people, we're gonna work hard to do that. But a shelter is gonna be like a large, like a gymnasium or whatever with a lot of different people and families in it and cots, and it's probably not gonna be the most comfortable place. We really encourage you to go stay with a family member or a friend or something that's more comfortable, or friends in the area or in the city that might not be impacted, by the emergency. And you cannot rely on hotels. Everybody gets a hotel room here, and during the dam failure, we couldn't get hotel rooms for like people coming in to help for anything, because they're all full. And usually when we have large power outages, the hotels are full. Not all of them have generators either. So, I mean, within an hour's drive here, you can, get out. It would be better for you to drive a couple hours to a family member and stay out of the area for a couple days a week than for you to probably try to stay local, like if you had to be out of your home, depending on the degree of disability and stuff that your child has. If that makes sense, because I'm assuming like if they have anxiety and those types of issues, if you're in a shelter with a lot of other people, that's not going to be healthy for them, and it's going to be very hard to manage. And we don't have like just a apartment complex sitting empty that we can just open up as a shelter where everybody has their own little space either. So those are some things to like be aware of and consider when you do those. A lot of people during the dam failure, because of the COVID situation, we opened shelters and we had food and stuff. They would come in for food in the bathroom and maybe charge their phones, but most of them stayed in their cars because that's where they felt safe. So you can stay in your car depending on the time of year and that kind of stuff. So that could be a plan for you. And then, but also if you have animals and pets, that's also another thing to plan for is too. What you're going to do with them. Boarding is very difficult. I know in our area, a lot of our veterinarians, they're getting out of the boarding business. I don't know if it's too expensive or they can't staff it or whatever, but it's very hard to find boarding and that kind of thing. So having a plan for them as well.
We're like out on East Wheeler Road, like
Okay.
past that bridge that was supposed to never flood again, that keeps flooding. And so I'm assuming during the dam failure that this was obviously a unique situation, right? I was surprised at like how fast the water rose at the bridge, and we did evacuate like we were told to. It was great. We got the text to, evacuate, and we did, and we evacuated all of our animals and everything too. But the only thing that really was the thing I really liked is somebody put like a thick rope across, and then we walked through the water, which by that time was up to my high thighs and like high on my kids.
Yeah.
The downside, like there was a fire truck on the other side of the flooded bridge.
Yeah.
I don't know quite why, but they were there. And then but the only downside was they had like one small little rowboat, like one boat, and there were like so many people waiting. Like I was like, if we wait in this huge group of people, we're gonna be here for hours.
That was more of a rescue probably boat than anything else, because there was probably home or whatever, and they don't have a lake, so they don't have boats. They have, and that little boat is great for the rivers they have, like Chippewa Pine, because most of them you can walk through. So again, their resources match their jurisdiction, right?
Yeah.
So and then
that was wild, but so in any case, we went through the water. My son was like, I don't want to get wet, and I'm like, sorry, you're getting wet,
right.
Yeah.
You guys had the full experience.
The snake rode the boat across with the other people. Yeah, that was wild though. So that was more of a like county, what the county has as far as resources.
Yes, that's all your local. Again, everything starts local, so that's your local jurisdiction. And what we have in local jurisdiction is the sheriff's department and the fire department. That's what we have. And the road commission.
Okay.
So
so who brought the boat? Like
I'm assuming it's the fire department.
Homer. The fire department. Okay. The fire
I remember when they were.
Yeah.
We were kind of lucky in that, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fire department is amazing.
Yeah, I think one of the key things from a emergency preparedness perspective is the preparing ahead of time.
Yeah. Yep. Being aware those are the situations you might encounter.
Yeah.
How are you gonna?
Our two oldest were both Boy Scouts, and they actually earned an emergency preparedness merit badge, which is one of the key ones to get Eagle. But it's a very important one because, part of what you do there is like the shelter in place, like in the basement. Part of what we did there is you don't know how long you might need to be there. So part of that whole process is looking through and saying, you want to have water, you need a gallon per day per person.
Yeah.
For drinking water. So you can plan ahead and say, well, how many are in our family? Oh, there's 5 of us. Oh, and how long could we be here? 3, 4, 5 days.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like you need 25 gallons of water then, you know,
Mhm.
so how do you do that? And then you need to turn the water over to
Yep.
keep it fresh. You know,
Rotate
you
it
have some
out.
food down there, a way to heat and cook things and ways to entertain your kids while they're there. 'Cause
Coloring
they're
books.
stuck in that-
Old school.
What's that?
Old school.
Yeah.
No devices.
Yeah, if there's no electricity,
Yeah.
you can have those there in case you do have electricity.
Yeah.
But then you need to have things to do if there is no power, you know, how do you stay warm,
Yeah.
how do you communicate, do you have a
Most-
radio?
Most of the things you need to shelter in place, you have. It's just whether or not you have them together or know where they're at, like extra blankets, those types of things. I mean, you probably have a grill outside, you know, those things. So the best way I like explain to people is like if you were to go camping for 3 to 4 days,
What do you need?
what do you need? And try to be very smart about what you need. You obviously can't take 7 or 8 different bags, right? You need to like really focus on eating and what types of things you can, like perishable foods, like soups and stuff that you can.
Sleeping.
Yep, a sleeping bag, you know, those types of things you have in your house. Those are the things that you would need.
Yeah,
And
but
like the
rotating your stock
yeah,
of food too,
yep.
so it doesn't, you know, even canned food doesn't last forever.
Right.
So, you know, like maybe once a year you say, oh, we had soups and things down there, okay, bring those up and stock with fresh and use
Yep.
those.
Like every 3 months or so, I rotate my canned good. Well, I kind of have like my own little storage thing going downstairs. Grocery, everything's face running and stuff. But I shop at Sam's, so like I'm like we can eat. I mean, it's gonna be like, you know, soups and stuff like that and everything. But
Not
we
for
probably
kids.
could go a month. You know,
Like
Well, I
army
think-
ration food, like, you know, the army drive.
yeah.
I have friends who are like big, like when they were.
Preppers.
Yes, but
Don't have to go that
that's for a
extreme.
long time, and they had
Yeah.
a specific room, and they just put that away with water and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, if you never used it, that's great, but it was always there in
Yeah.
case, you know.
But you can
Or
do.
you
I mean,
have it and not need it and need it and not
Yeah.
have it.
yep, high pro things. You know, like granola bars and that kind of stuff. Tuna fish.
Twinkies.
It's not the most popular thing, but it lasts a long time. It's protein. You don't have to like cook it. Yeah, you don't have to cook it or anything. Those types of things. Or even things that you just need like, you know, pasta or whatever, you just have to boil some water with, you know, so yeah.
So, I mean, if you're like downstairs because of a tornado doesn't last 3 or 4 days.
Nope.
Like, but so if you're sheltering in place, like, I mean, I understand having a kit of stuff in the basement to like stay down there for a few hours because
Right.
of the tornado. But otherwise, if you're staying at,
It
the
depends
food
on,
would be upstairs. I mean, the food
well,
would still be
unless the tornado
upstairs.
comes and takes your house away.
Oh, right.
But then the question is where do you go after that? Like, so you can imagine your house is gone,
Yeah,
and you have no power.
yeah.
Okay,
right.
you have somewhere to go,
I mean,
you have relatives, you know.
Yeah.
you could camp on your property, you could camp in your basement or whatever, as long as it didn't rain. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what does that look like, you know, the
Yeah.
next day or later that day? And it takes us, usually we tell people try to be self-sufficient for 72 hours, because that's about how long it takes to bring in like Red Cross or like national resources to set up things. Obviously we'll be, you know, we're going to try to make use of like local churches and different things like that to provide the shelter, but it'll take a little bit of time for us to bring food and that kind of stuff in. And a lot of people feel more comfortable and safe at home. They do. People don't want to leave their homes. We ran into that a little bit with evacuating for the dam failure and different things, especially during the early evacuation. People didn't want to leave because that's where they feel safe and stuff. But that was more of a life safety thing because we had ideas of what was going to happen, but we never experienced it, so we didn't really know exactly how it was going to play out, and how fast everything would happen, and the time of day. You know, everything. The water always peaks here in the middle of the night, and you can't see it, so you don't really know how deep it is. So,
Well, and along those lines too is evacuation. What do you
Right.
need to evacuate?
yeah,
So
like
you
medication,
should have
those
like a
types of things.
pre-packed bag.
Yeah.
Cause you don't have time normally, you know,
I
like
did-
if you have the chemical release.
Yeah.
It isn't like, oh, I'm gonna take 20 minutes, half hour to pack, or you're evacuating from the dam.
Yeah.
You'd had a pretty short
Yeah.
time, so it's like, I need to go and I need to go now.
Like a go bag of stuff.
Yeah,
So like
for me, I have my go bag, and then the part I would go grab is, and then I'll go grab my meds, which are all in my med tray.
Yeah.
And I know I'm gonna grab my med tray and put that in there and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Do you have a website that you particularly like that has all this laid out?
Yeah, well, I've got those packets and stuff, but you can go to ready.gov Ready.gov has all sorts of resources and things. Gov, G-O-V.
Gov.
Yep, ready.gov. As long as FEMA hasn't taken it down, they've taken down some different things. But it can be overwhelming. So it's all about, and there's also a site called Do One Thing. And it's actually an organization out of Lansing where basically every month you do one thing for your preparedness kit. So then by the end of 12 months, you have everything you need to be together. So you don't need to, it's do the number one thing.org.
So
And-
it tells you to add this item, so you're not
Yep.
having this.
Yeah, you don't need to go to like Walmart or Target and spend $200 and make a big disaster kit. You don't need to do that. You have stuff in your house. It's just about intentionally setting it aside or just keeping it aside and rotating out and having it available so that it's there, you know where it's at, and it's easy to grab and you're not looking and searching for everything in the moment of. So like medications and that kind of stuff. I get those pill boxes or whatever, and I do them for a week or two. So I always have at least a week or so that I can grab and go. And I keep some at work because I've spent the night at my office before.
Well, the
So-
example of the shoes. It's like you don't think, oh, I
Yeah.
need shoes in my, area.
Yeah.
Where I'm, my emergency area.
Yeah.
But you do,
Yep.
because if you have to leave, or you wanna leave barefoot,
Yeah.
probably not, if your house was.
We had
And it's
so
gone.
many animals that we were evacuating through that flooded bridge that like I went through and had like wet pants, and then like I went back and forth taking
Right.
animals back and forth, and I was just like soaking wet until like 11 o'clock at night. But then my sister brought me clothes. But we stayed at my mom's, and I was really glad
Yeah.
that we stayed there because we couldn't even go back home then because M20 and everywhere was flooded. We couldn't have even gone back home if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have any type of go bag other than hauling a million animals across with me. Like we took all the animals, but I
Right.
didn't have anything, so it would have been good to have a
Yeah.
backpack or something. Yeah.
Or even have a bag of clothes kept at your mom's or whatever,
Right, I
your
should
sister's
do
or
that.
whoever.
Yeah.
You do like a change of clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I have a change of clothes in my office. I keep, my car has got boots in it all year round. I have tennis shoes in my office because if I have to evacuate, I'm throwing those heels off and I'm going to throw on my tennis shoes because if I have to walk a couple blocks and stand for a while, that's what I need. I have a coat, I have a jacket,
Do you recommend like having a spot that you meet with family members?
Yep.
Or something that?
Yep, so
but where
I would recommend having a spot. What I really recommend is having a person you call. Because a lot of times you can't call within, like if we were to lose services and different things, you can't call your neighbor, but you might be able to call grandma in another state or out. So if everybody calls Aunt Sue or Aunt Linda, so then Aunt Linda's like, okay, everybody's checked in, and then maybe Aunt Linda can call in, but you might not be able to call across. That's a good thing. So there's a communication plan that's in that information, and there's one on our website that you can print off. And it's kind of about that. And you can actually hang it on the fridge and you just grab it. I didn't bring them with me, but I can always email them to Iris and she can send them out. But there's a communication page, so then you can actually write down phone numbers and stuff, because if your phone dies, then I don't remember numbers. I know the phone number of the house I grew up in, but I can't remember the phone number of other people, So, so that's good to have like a paper copy of things. I still keep an address book. I don't like to keep everything in my phone because my phone has a moment, I lose everything. So,
Yeah, it's always interesting too, you have to talk about contingency plans,
Yeah.
because the one in 2017 that you're talking about where it flooded so bad. Our middle child was at CMU for a wrestling tournament or a camp. And my husband was supposed to go pick him up. And it wasn't so bad here in Midland, but as he went west to try to get to Mount Pleasant.
yeah.
He
So,
was
want to
2
keep from
hours
there.
late showing up to pick up our son. Because he had to, they had part of 127 shut down, they had all these, he took all these different routes and he literally had to. When he got closer, he had to call the police department and they had to tell him which roads were open. So that he could get to CMU to do the pickup. So it's just kind of interesting to think through that
Yeah,
process
you're
of how
welcome.
you would do it, so. But yeah, that was interesting, because it's like, well, hopefully they know we're coming and they realize there's this flooding issue going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just being aware of, your surroundings, aware of the floodplain around you. You can go online and actually see where the floodplain is in the county and see, what roads or bridges or whatever will be closed. So then you can have alternate routes done or be aware of alternate routes. There's some people that will, they buy a house or whatever, and yeah, they're not in the floodplain, but their neighbor is. Well, I mean, that might impact them. It might not impact their home, but it might impact their route out of the subdivision or those types of things, especially some of the interesting subdivisions we have around here where there's one way in and one way out, those types of things. So it's just having awareness and being educated about those things so that you can better plan for those. And it can be very overwhelming, so it's just good about just doing a little bit at a time, even if you do it over a 2 or 3 month period, like just kind of maybe like write out a plan and then you just, if you want to put everything in a laundry basket and keep it up and, like so the kids don't get into it, and you just make sure you refresh things every now and then or batteries, when we change clocks, that's a good time to like refresh batteries and kits and that kind of stuff. And
Change your smoke detectors.
your smoke detector batteries and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 10-year.
All the new ones.
And those-
For that reason, yeah.
Those weather radios, you want to get them with a battery backup. So they take like 2 to 4 AA's. And that way, if you lose power, you have them. You also could unplug them and take them in the basement with you. I'm not sure on how reception is. Sometimes they're spotty depending. But then that would let you know if they extend the tornado warning or if they cancel it, those types of things. Because usually there's not an all clear. There's more of a, this is happening or there's a warning, but they don't always tell you when it's over. Weather service is more about they cancel the warning or alert, those types of things. But like with our sirens go off one time to let you know that there's something going on. They don't go off the whole time that that is ongoing, and we don't do an all clear either. So it's just being aware of those things.
The first time that I ever left our older son home alone, he was like in middle school at the time, I think, and he was just starting to like text with his phone and stuff. I left him home alone because he was sick and I had to take the younger kid to school. And so before I left, I was like, okay, if there's like a fire in the house, like go to our next door neighbor who we're good friends with, like just get out of the house and go to the neighbors or, blah, 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 whatever. So I go to school to Jefferson, drop off the younger son. And before I leave, I text to the older son, like, how are you doing? Everything okay? And he just responded, yes, no fire.
Very clear.
I'm very glad to know there's no fire.
Very, very happy.
We're gonna say the opposite, that you have fire.
Yes.
Yes, you're welcome. We kind of went long, but we had good conversation.
What, sorry?
We kind of went long, but we had good
Yeah,
conversation.
I'm sure this recording will be useful to some people that couldn't make it today. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing the information and taking that role for our community because we already proved that we need that in Midland, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. It was nice meeting all of you.
You help yourself to.
Okay.
Coffee, I know, use coffee lots, so. Drink some tea or that.
All right, thank you.
So this is what I have. Yeah, yes. So this is what I have. Is that the associate, my name, so it was Teresa, there you go.
They said to do that. It's an agency or.
That's what they call me in, I was always like the one that didn't, like, looking out for everybody, so I always thought that.
We just met and we do that.
Yes.
We're not going to have we have something that we work towards.
Pull up.
Just like.
Yes.
That first time that was supposed to take a caseworker, then we've been.
So again, thank you for coming,
Yep.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And what is your like training background to be an emergency coordinator person?
No public safety.
No public safety.
No public
Oh, to know public safety.
No, I have no public safety
Oh,
background. A lot of people come into